This program is brought to you by Emory University.
I think the major misconception I find among Western societies about Islam is identifying it too much with the Middle East of today. So there is little understanding of the historical depth and the richness of the Islamic tradition 1500 years globally. And even today, the vast majority of Muslims live outside the Middle East. There's only about 10% of the total Muslim population who are Arabs. The rest are sub-Saharan Africans, Asians, Southeast Asians. So that tendency to identify Islam with the Middle East of today is, I think, a misconception. I think the liberal tradition is absolutely critical for the Islamic faith itself, because the freedom to believe and disbelieve are interconnected. They are two sides of the same coin. If I am not able to disbelieve, I cannot believe, and my belief has no value. So the ability to be Muslim by choice, by conviction, without coercion, is critical for the integrity of religious experience. So the liberal tradition for me is inherent to the possibility of being a good Muslim. No, I think my sense of what I do and why I do it is very personal, and it's also very religious. I'm always very conscious of the fact that I'm accountable from a religious point of view for what I say. So if I misspeak, if I speak flippantly or dishonestly or misrepresent any aspect of it, then I feel accountable to God for that. So for me, it is a very religious act. And for that, I worry about being too much confident and comfortable about speaking for Islam or Muslims. I think it is really, I do it as I feel it is necessary for it to be done, but I'm always very hesitant and worried about my overstating or being overconfident about what I'm saying and doing. Islam is very much a continuation of the same Abrahamic tradition of Judaism, Christianity. And Muslims believe that they are part of the same global community of people of the book, the three religions. So the core values are shared among all three traditions. Speaking the truth, being compassionate, being hardworking, honest, all these values are shared. But the critical point which comes in the name Islam itself, Aslama is someone who submits. So Islam is about submitting to the will of God. So this notion of submission, not to preempt or protest as what you believe God's will is the object of our ritual practices, our religious doctrine, our social relationships. So a constant interaction between our submission to God and our acting with other people. The way we interact socially is a way of expressing our submission to the will of God in that sort of, you might say, vertical relationship to God in a way. I don't think that Islam as such is more susceptible to fundamentalism than other religions. But I think the post-colonial condition of Muslim societies makes them more susceptible to fundamentalist thinking. So it is a reaction to colonialism and to perceptions of hegemony by the West, exploitation by other societies. So it is a defensiveness that makes people tend to become more conservative. As we know that if you feel under attack, you tend to protect your community, you tend to stick together, you tend to suppress dissent, you tend to highlight what is common against the shared common enemy. Those things which fundamentalism tend to emphasize are, to me, more of a product of the post-colonial experience of Muslims than it is of the religion itself as such. Because going back to the historical depth of Islam as a tradition, as a civilization, it has not been, most of its history, it has not been fundamentalist. So we see, in fact, certain moments of crisis when Muslim societies were under attack, and fundamentalism tend to feed and thrive on that sense of danger and besiegement. Yes, I think the tendency to view Islam as more fundamentalist is because when it has come to the attention of the majority of Western societies and audiences and readership of media, it has come in association with fundamentalism. But that lack of historical depth of understanding how deep and how broad globally, how diverse Muslim societies are, all the way from Indonesia to Central Asia to West Africa. There are more Muslims in sub-Saharan Africa than there are Muslims in the Middle East. But we don't think of sub-Saharan Africa as Islamic. So the Iranian Revolution, the assassination of Sadat, the rise of Muslim fundamentalism in the Middle East, and the more recent Al-Qaeda and terrorism, those are what comes to mind in Western audiences about Islam. But these are very tiny and totally unrepresentative aspects of Islamic global society.
Gotcha.
The feeling that we are in this together. Very much today's news about this swine flu in Mexico, and how it has global implications. I mean that people traveling all the time, carrying disease and risks. So as a global human society, we are facing similar dangers. And therefore, we should not think so much in terms of how different we are, although we cherish our being different, but we should emphasize how equally vulnerable we are to dangers of all sorts. And it is by emphasizing our shared humanity that we can confront our shared vulnerability. And to that, I come as a Muslim, and I would like to see others come as Christians, as Jews, as whatever tradition, coming to this common ground and retaining our distinctiveness in our traditions, in our values.
The preceding program is copyrighted by Emory University.